Good afternoon. We'll call this Bridging the Gap Subcommittee meeting to order. Judge Morgan and Brana will not be able to be with us today. Couple pieces of housekeeping. We desperately need all the scoring sheets in by 12:30. Not this afternoon, 12:30 as in December 30th. We missed 12:30 for today. So let's please get those wrapped up. Number of people are missing one here and there. So let's go back through those and get that sorted out. And on that same line of discussion, we would propose that we will schedule our next meeting on January 21st, which is the same schedule that we've been on here at 3 p.m. again. There's a strong objection to that. I guess shoot us an email and let us know, but we were thinking that if we stuck with the same program, it would be most efficient for everybody. Any immediate concerns on that count? Okay, good. Well, that's all I have there. I guess we're going to go right into the presentations. Our first speakers are Ms. Kelly Neese and Jen Carpenter. And you're here from Community Mental Health, correct? And so you know our format, 20 minutes for your presentation and then 10 minutes of Q&A. So the time is yours.
Thank you. So today we hope to talk to you a little bit about Pathways Engagement Center. It's a program, sorry about that. That is a program that is part of the Lenawee Community Mental Health Authority. New slide. So we are going to start a little bit, have some introductions that are pretty brief, a bit of background, and then some program information to fill you all in. Maybe one more. My name is Jen Carpenter. I am the clinical director at Lenawee Community Mental Health Authority. I've worked in the public mental health field for 15 years, specifically with LCMHA for the last 13 years. I am a resident of Lenawee County and have the privilege of serving the individuals in our county through my work at CMH.
And hello, everybody. My name is Kelly Neese, and I'm Pathways Engagement Center Program Manager. I'm also a recovery coach certified with CCAR and an advocate in the community for substance use disorder. I've worked in this field for approximately 14 years through FMC and through Lenawee Community Mental Health.
Yep. Just a little bit of information about us. We have been providing services in Lenawee County since about 1973. We are a substance use disorder, which is the SUD core provider. And we also serve as the backbone for the United for Prevention and Recovery Lenawee, which used to be called the Lenawee Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. So some of that background information for you. ROSC is our recovery-oriented system of care. It's really important that we identify that ROSC was pulled together to kind of look at the big picture for Lenawee County. This helped bring together community mental health, law enforcement, hospitals, schools, numerous community partners to really identify what we needed and how to make it happen here in our county. As part of that, we really worked hard to make sure that we had the services necessary. CMH does employ the largest number of recovery coaches in Lenawee County at this time and really provides a wide safety net for all of our residents. Part of that that we identified through ROSC, we did some different gap analyses. One that was conducted in 2014 identified a need for a place for people to go. So we wanted a physical location where people could go for assistance if they were struggling with substance use, not just having a phone number to call. And a solution to that was for the Lenawee Community Mental Health Authority to establish what is an engagement center.
So what is an engagement center? Most of you, I'm familiar with most of you, have seen and have heard of Pathways Engagement Center. It's located right downtown, right down the street from here. It's a low barrier engagement center. What that means is that our only criteria to get in there is that you're 18 and older. So it is staffed by peers with lived experiences. They're all trained peer recovery coaches and certified through the state or CCAR. And they're there to help people at every stage of recovery and at every stage of use. So that means, yes, there are people there that are actively in substance use, and that is the most important time to reach and connect with those folks.
Another gap analysis that was completed in 2017 identified a need for additional recovery supports that were not based in the traditional or typical 12-step philosophy. So a solution to that was for the Pathways Engagement Center to provide additional types of recovery meetings. So the staff there was trained in smart recovery, and they did begin facilitating those meetings for our community.
So what is Smart Recovery? It's a mutual aid group. It's ran every day at Pathways at 8 p.m. and at 7 a.m. in the morning, like clockwork. And it's facilitated by peer recovery coaches that are trained in SMART, which is self-management and recovery training. That's an evidence-based platform that really supports not only building motivation for change, but also building resources, ability to cope with urges and cravings, and really a cognitive model for folks to engage with, and offers a little bit different of a platform than the 12-step. With recovery, as some of you may have had experience with, there's not one method that works. It's a really individualized recovery plan. And so SMART is just another piece of offering access to services, more diverse services, and services that serve our community in the best way.
And then a third gap analysis that was completed identified a need to improve recovery infrastructure and better connect people. So that was when we decided that our engagement center would begin hosting public sober events. We had the infrastructure in place to help support these individuals, but we didn't really know exactly what it was to bring them in the door. So we knew what to do once they got here. We had to figure out a way to get people in.
And I didn't know either. So I had several attempts at sober events that were unsuccessful. So what I ultimately did is turned it over to my peer coaches, who are a broad spectrum of people in recovery. Everyone from the middle-aged mom in suburbia that started with prescription drugs and then later developed addiction to illicit substances, and to young folks that only have experience with alcohol. We have like a vast range of people that had different routes to recovery as well. So they're the experts. I put them in charge of deciding what sober events should look like. And they did that in a very structured way. They asked for consensus from our consumers that attend events already at Pathways and receive services at Pathways. And resoundingly, folks wanted something to do on the weekend. So my plan was scrapped, and we did what they wanted. And we went from having maybe one person show up for pizza and a game to a line outside in the parking lot that maybe some of you have seen and wondered what's going on. Sober events are a really great way for people to be introduced into sobriety, to help maintain their sobriety, or just to form fellowship and understanding with what recovery looks like. There aren't a lot of recovery resources for social events here in Lenawee County. You go to a restaurant that serves alcohol, well, that could be a problem for someone in recovery. And so we wanted to create a really safe atmosphere for people to do crafts. They do yoga. Sometimes we just watch football. We watch the Lions. They don't watch my team, which is Ohio State, but they do show up for Michigan games. Their art and their crafts are hanging on our walls. Like, it's amazing. They decorated, they bought a tree for Pathways in and decorated it themselves. It really is a place for folks with substance use issues in our community, and they've made that into a really safe place, and it's really awesome to see.
Bit of program information Kelly's going to share with us.
Okay, so Pathways is open every night, 7 days a week, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And I really pride the work that we do there, as we are one of the only lights open in the evening for people in crisis, for folks in crisis. I think the options could be maybe the emergency room, our place, or Lenawee County Jail. So I think ours is the best option. And we work together with law enforcement, and we work together with the emergency room for folks that need services when they're discharged, for folks that might need diverted and don't necessarily need to go to the Lenawee County Jail and might just need a place to be safe and sober up. So we do offer those services, and we don't kick people out. We help them build the resources and the skills they need to get back into the programming. And I covered most of that already. Okay. So peer support and recovery coaching. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to meet peer recovery coaches. They are people with lived experience. At CMH, we require them to have 3 years of experience in stable recovery. And that gives them a really unique way to reach individuals that may not even know they're ready for help. One of the things that most people need seeking help in substance use is just someone to listen to them and a safe place to share their story. Peers offer that, and I can attest to how powerful that is to be in the first step towards recovery. They offer referrals to care and resources, so referrals to access treatment, referrals to housing and emergency. Share the Warmth is a partner of ours. Interconnection is a partner of ours. Catherine Cobb. So we really, our peers take a lot of pride and do a lot of work in keeping our resources updating, being aware of Lenawee County's resources, and offering those to the community and making appropriate referrals and connecting folks to care. So they really are that connective piece to community stakeholders.
A few more details. We have 7 full-time certified peer recovery coaches on staff. We have a program coordinator, a program supervisor, and then our total annual budget is around $893,540. So this grant request is for 1 operating quarter, about $300,000 to keep us over the right.
Okay, and since we've opened, we've served, I mean, you can see the numbers. I don't have to repeat them to you. Smart Recovery running every night. We do work hand in hand with the treatment court, so we do receive a lot of people from recovery court and sobriety court, and we have a peer present in those courts too, so it's a good connective, a good continuum of care. We hold the Smart Recovery meetings every night, so we have accrued quite a few of those. And then the sober events hosted, again, they're primarily on the weekend. But more than numbers, those are people in Lenawee County primarily that we've served and connected to services and at least provided a safe place for them to be. And then just in the last year alone, I really want to emphasize these numbers because when I first started at Pathways in 2018, there would maybe be 1 to 0 people coming in a night. And it was really hard for our peers to stay awake and find things to do. And it was a hard job to do because there wasn't a lot to do. And then to just in a year, we had 202 unduplicated people admitted. That's amazing. That's a lot of folks that we've served and a lot of lives that we've changed. And I'm really proud of that number.
I think it's important to also mention that not all of our consumers who are served at Pathways are from Adrian. So while it is centrally located here, it's easier for folks to get in if they are in Adrian. We do have individuals coming from all over the county because we are intended to serve the entire county. So we have folks coming from all the places listed. Not a ton, but they are coming. So this shows there's a lot of initiative and a lot of buy-in from other places to where people are actually physically having to drive here or find rides here or somehow get into town to attend something because they find it valuable and they find it beneficial to them. So some challenges that we do face is sustainable funding. We are not currently able to bill for services provided at Pathways. So we are not able to use Medicaid dollars or bill insurance at this time. This is an entirely grant-funded program. So there have been, as we all know, some changes in federal funding priorities. So that definitely impacts us and our abilities to secure some of that funding. An additional challenge that we often face is staffing. Again, staffing is pretty difficult across the board, especially overnight for drop-in style programming. So even if no one comes, we still have to have someone there. We have to have people present. We need to be able to meet someone in the event they do need to come in for that service. We can't risk somebody finally deciding that this is the time, I'm ready, and then they get there and the door's not open. We can't risk that. So we need to make sure that we're able to keep the lights on, keep people in there, and keep present for our community. Thank you very much.
So
yeah.
Just to end really quickly, I wanted to end, as we're talking about the importance of Pathways and substance use disorder resources in our community, I always like to take a minute to talk about why this is important, why it's important to me, and why I've dedicated my life to this. 17 years ago in the spring, My little sister, who was 10 years younger than me, she was vibrant and beautiful and smart and sassy, passed away of a heroin overdose in Lenawee County. Um, so my family, I am the face of substance use disorder in Lenawee County. I can tell you that that moment changed my life because at that time I was a registered nurse and I was a smarty pants and I was starting my family at the age of 33 and my sister was just starting her life. She went to Adrian Public Schools, graduated from Adrian High School. She taught herself Spanish in a month. Could read it and write it. That was crazy to me. And she was beautiful and I was blinded by that. I didn't see that she needed help. And so I remember this day very vividly because I was 9 months pregnant. And the last thing my sister said to me is, I can't wait to meet you, Jaylee, which is my daughter's name. And I was picking her up to take her putt-putting and she had passed away. Now, she was still warm. I had only been apart from her for 15 minutes. I had no idea that she did drugs, none. And I started CPR and I had my 4-year-old son with me and I called the police and it took about 8 to 10 minutes for them to get there because she lived on the outskirts of town. And the first crew that arrived didn't have Narcan and I didn't have Narcan. And she was warm when I was doing CPR on her. And I feel I could have saved her life if I had Narcan. But better yet, if there were resources in this community that she could have went to, she was smart enough and sassy enough to have utilized them. I know that about her. And so I dedicate my life not only to build those resources and maintain them here in this community, because I know how important they are. I know how I felt when she passed in this community. I felt ashamed. I felt stigmatized. It took me 8 years to even talk about this story. I didn't have a single picture in my house up of her because I was ashamed and I didn't know why. And then I started working with peers and I shared my story for the first time publicly at Day of Hope. And it changed my life. And now that shame is pride. And what I see happening at Pathways, we can talk about community collaborations, we can talk about partnerships, we can talk about funding, we can talk about sustainability, but I've seen people's lives saved at Pathways. And I think that's important. And I think it's all of our responsibility to make sure that a community engagement center is available to our residents. I think that's our responsibility. So thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for sharing your story with us. Questions? Commissioner Collins.
First, let me start by saying I'm a retired police chief, and when I was chief, it was a misdemeanor in Adrian to say you're an Ohio State fan. So,
Yeah.
I would probably be in jail then.
I'm concerned, maybe you can assuage it. You're asking for 1/4 of operational expenses, and you are grant funded? To interrupt your grant cycle, does that not create problems for you for a continuation of grants?
Don't believe so.
So
That's not.
we have the majority of our funding through the state and through the region already secured. But because some of those funding streams changed, we knew at the beginning of the cycle that we were short. And I know that there have, above my scope, been redisbursement of those funds to where we can continue to stay open. But obviously it's a concern and that's why we're here asking for more funding.
There is a concern about continuation without funding.
For this fiscal year, yes. But we, like every year, we apply for multiple grant funding streams. That is a big part of my role, is securing that funding, reporting on that funding, and developing fund initiatives for that funding.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a one-time ask then to deal with a short-term budget issue, or would,
Yes.
okay. See, not every year would you be back? Because we got more layers of these monies coming. I'm sure you're gonna leave every stone unturned, or not leave any stone, you know what I'm trying to say. but
Right. I mean, that is my job, is to secure funding and find funding. I mean, I apply for grant funding and have no idea what will be awarded and what won't be awarded until that fiscal year comes up. So to say, no, I will never ask for more funding if funding is
Understood.
available. I mean, that's my whole job. So, I mean, I don't want to lie to you, but
no, fair enough. Other questions? Because I have several more, but I want you guys to go first. Tim?
First, I need to say that I need to abstain from any voting on this proposal simply because I'm on the board of the CMA. Kind of an off-base question. What's your opinions about the use of telehealth with people that are attending the pathways? Do you have any opinion or thoughts about how those things work together? Could be supportive of each other or maybe even contradict each other, I guess.
I think that telehealth can be a really useful tool, and I think they can work together well. I do think that one of the things that was identified in those gap analyses were that people really wanted a place they could physically go. And so while telehealth is a really useful tool, and it's nice to help engage some of those folks who might have some transportation barriers or other limitations that might not allow them to come in, the majority of our folks wanted somewhere they could physically go, and we wanted to be able to match that for them.
Other questions? Terry?
Just a quick, just dawned on me, when you listed the areas from Illinois County where people are coming, obviously the vast number from Adrian. You think a lot of that might be transportation barriers that they're having difficulty getting to and from?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, definitely. A lot of our folks have transportation issues and transportation to any resource in Lenawee County is a challenge for them.
Anybody else? Well, I'm going to take advantage of your expertise because of course we won't just question you about your ideas, but your experience in the community is valuable. What percentage of the people that you're seeing are homeless?
A large percentage, a large percentage. I would guess at over 50%, and we also do have quite a few consumers that are connected to treatment court, do have jobs, do have housing, whether it's secure housing or not, that's an issue, but we also have several folks that are in complete crisis, have no resources whatsoever, can't even get into the shelter. So there are some real issues with housing.
So that's always going to make for, presuming it's a similar ratio. I represent the Blissfield, Deerfield, Britain area, which is much more remote, doesn't seem that way to us, but small communities, first of all, I would think there'd be a certain stigma of not wanting to be seen entering a facility in a small community, but transportation, if there's a homeless community in those areas, is always going to be a bottleneck. I'm sensitive to the outlying areas because in my district, we see a lot of attention on Adrian from county resources, at least that's a perception. And then, of course, our folks are like, well, what about us out here? Though I think many of us recognize that, well, I don't want to, certainly there's a more public face on homelessness in Adrian than what we might see in Blissfield, for instance, just because of the nature of the community. Outside of increasing transportation, do you have any thoughts about how we can get more of those folks from those areas into your resources?
I have so many thoughts. Yes. So it's interesting because when I first started working with a HRSA grant, a federal grant, it's been over 2 years ago now, that was the issue that I most was passionate about. So I secured a mobile recovery unit. Some of you may have seen it, and really put a lot of energy and passion behind getting it to those outskirts of Lenawee County, to the outlying communities. And you're exactly right. You're very observant. People did not want to access those services because on the outside of the bus it said mobile recovery unit, even though it did offer medical services, vaccination services, COVID testing. It had comprehensive services, acute care services. I could not get people on that bus.
Sure.
Now, people like you all, when I went to speak about the bus, loved the idea. The community didn't really utilize it. And so I think things like this are really important. I think you being involved and hearing about all the resources in our community and to really normalize talking about substance use disorder and prioritize managing substance use disorder in our community, that helps normalize things. That helps reduce stigma. It's our job as leaders, as community stakeholders to really talk about this issue in a way that is not stigmatizing and that in a way that is problem solving and providing more access, like whatever services we can get, I'm typically behind it for SUD.
We've had a number of proposals, this 25 or 26 total, I think. And of course, there's some overlap in what you're proposing with some of these others, particularly with sober places, if you will. How large is the need? Is there need for more than one? Which I know puts you in an awkward spot because, of course, if there's going to be funding, you would like it to be yours. But nonetheless, we don't really know how big the need is. And
Right. Yeah, I mean, so access to care is access to care. I'm behind that. I also think though that it's taken 8 years to get pathways to be utilized in the way that I envisioned it to be utilized, to people to feel comfortable there. And so I think you have to take that into account, that takes time and that takes power and energy. But yeah, I mean, that is what I'm saying. We need more resources and I think the Engagement Center Pathways in particular is a very useful one.
any other questions? Terry?
Given what we were just talking about, is there room for growth within your organization, both physically and with programs?
I would say yes. If we can get more consumers involved, if we can have more resources, we can continue to build upon that. We can, we always strive to provide as much service as we can. So we've got Pathways as part of community mental health. We've got the community mental health side open during the day. We've got Pathways open at night. So we're really trying to hit all of those areas to make sure that we're not leaving the community unserved at any point in time. So if we can secure resources and we can have these things available, we can make sure that we have people 24/7 available in person for the members of our community.
But your building, would you outgrow, you think, that the size? Or is that trending or?
So it's a small space. I don't know if you've ever been in there. It's pretty
Yeah,
small.
yes.
So there is always the possibility, and during COVID, we did utilize the interconnections piece of that because that is the kind of partnership we have with interconnections. So I think if we needed to grow and expand, we would have that potential to do that there. It is to the point that it's pretty full right now, but not for extended period, not for the whole night. Like, I mean, it's really busy for mutual aid groups and sober activities, and then it's just open for people to kind of come in and come out. So then in that sense, we don't need as much space.
Okay, well, we're out of time. I will run a risk of saying, I'm sure I speak on the behalf of everybody here that we truly appreciate the work that you're already doing in our community. And thank you for coming to us with that proposal today.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Before the next group comes up, I've been reminded that I made a mistake and did not address the minutes. So if there was a motion to approve the minutes from November 19th, that would be appreciated.
So moved.
Support.
Any corrections? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay. Switch over to our next presenters. If the next folks would come on up to the podium. Yeah. I understand why you're asking, but I don't see an issue. Yeah. We did, but I think, yeah. Well, besides, the ship is so. So, all right. Well, welcome. You folks are here with Lenawee Public Transportation Authority. If you'd share with us your names, and then you have 20 minutes to proceed.
Thank you very much for allowing us your time today. My name is Kate Dazier. I'm the Executive Director for Lenawee Public Transportation Authority, and this is Morgan Torres. I am the Mobility Manager for Lenawee County. Just to give you a little bit of background, Lenawee Public Transportation Authority combined Dial-A-Ride and Lenawee Transportation into one service in October of 2022. So that helped with a lot of barriers, but we still have more. So at this time, we have 18 vehicles. 2 of them are minivans, 2 of them are transits, and 14 buses. Last year, we took 70,213 trips, and we operated for 283 days. Morgan's role here is she finds unique solutions for people with unique needs. The Lenawee County Mobility Manager has been in existence for, I believe, 5 years. We took over the grant 2 years ago, I believe so. But it needs to be marketed better. I will give that as a caveat. We get 34% of our funding through the state and 18% federal funding, which is a total of 52% of our budget. This year, our budget is $1.3 million, of which $714,000 would be covered by federal and state funding. That leaves me with a shortfall every year. We do get an appropriation from the county and from the state. It still leaves me with $527,000 to come up with. Our current fare structure is $1.50 for senior or disabled and $3 for full fare. Takes a lot of rides to get $500,000. So we have branched out and started what we consider non-emergency medical transport. That's where Morgan really comes into play, is very useful. So, next slide.
That brings us to discuss the challenge that we face. Right now, we offer service hours between 6:30 and 3:30. The last call for transportation is at 3:30 every day. Through doing a lot of research on the different programs that are available in Lenawee County, we met with district court to go over the phases that sobriety court faces, of which we learned that transportation was a huge barrier for those participants. One of which is they have to attend meetings for 90 days in a row. A lot of those meetings do not fall between the hours of 6:30 and 3:30. There's a lot of evening meetings available. When we discussed this with Mike McCarron from District Court, we learned that they do have the opportunity to meet via Zoom, but it's highly beneficial for them to meet in person and build relationships with other people also participating in these meetings.
Service hours are also Monday through Friday. We used to have Saturday service, but when everybody talked, budgets were cut 5% last year, 5% the year before, so I've taken a 10% budget cut. With that, the only thing I can kind of control is my wages, so we had to eliminate Saturday service. We did have an individual that we kept on as far as that goes in later in the evening as well. That was something that we also had to cut when budget constraints came about us. So, next slide.
The purpose would be to reduce transportation barriers for residents. What we would be looking to do is expand our transportation hours. That way we can provide reliable transportation to people in Lenawee County. Right now, we do go out to areas like Blissfield, Rome-Hudson area, Tecumseh, Clinton, Morenci twice a week. That's once in the morning and once in the afternoon. That doesn't allow for a lot of transportation resources to be available throughout the day when somebody may need to come in and report to probation or speak with a counselor, maybe seek legal counsel, or really just get groceries, switch their laundry, apply for a job. So what we would be looking to do is provide better support to the community through transportation so that we can encourage them to stay sober and just use the resources available to become better equipped to recover.
So like Morgan said, our proposal is we'd like to expand service hours to align more with those treatment schedules, provide low or no cost rides for individuals seeking treatment / recovery services, and improve access to treatment, recovery services, employment, and housing. with that being said, I think I've watched a few of these and I think transportation has come up in every single one. And so for us, we could play a very large role in that. We just kind of need the services to expand, so. And why are we positioned to lead? We have existing local transportation to allow a quick implementation. Existing community partnerships that we have in place to assist rides more effective or more efficiently. So we currently work with DHS. We work with community mental health. We have a relationship with Wellwise Services as well as Family Medical. We use Safe Ride Health. It's a insurance type broker that covers individuals who have Meridian, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Humana, and United Health. Those are considered the non-emergency medical transport rides. And so if it was doctor prescribed and their insurance covered it, we will go out to Cement City to pick them up and bring them back into town. But Cement City is the furthest Lenawee County, city that we tend to neglect because it is too far out of our resources.
So the expected outcomes would be that we could increase treatment attendance and retention by being able to get people to the appointments. It would reduce the missed appointments and support sobriety, improve community access to support groups, employment, and legal support as mentioned, and encourage independence through providing reliable transportation. When we've met with district court and talked about this, what they are trying to do is encourage independence. And if they don't have transportation to get there, a lot of the times they're relying on a family member, a neighbor, somebody from church, or another individual that may be in the group that they're going to. And when you're in phase 1 of sobriety court, you're reporting for 90 days. That would be you relying on somebody for 90 days in a row to get you there. It doesn't allow a lot of room for independence. That's something that we would want to encourage and support by giving them the option to use transportation through us.
We also are familiar with, there is a clinic in Ann Arbor that individuals have to go up, and I'm not well versed in this, but they have to go up 6 days a week to receive their medication per se. We're not opposed to actually doing some type of bus with that and transporting them up there, getting their stuff and coming back. Also with that treatment, you have to go rain or shine. So 3 inches of ice, they don't care. They still want you to be there to attend, and you need to get there to get your medications as well. So we could see that also being an outcome that we could eventually branch into. This would allow them to foster their independence, like through laundry, doing their laundry, their groceries, just if we provided that transportation, maybe it's just mending some of those relationships with family members that had been broken before now. Next slide. So our funding request is we're looking for 200,000 over a 2-year period, so 100,000 per year. That would cover personnel to coordinate and schedule the transportation requests, vehicle operation costs, driver hours, maintenance, and the fuel, ride vouchers or passes to remove the cost barrier, as well as data tracking, reporting, and evaluation system. We currently, like I said, partner with community mental health, district court, Catholic charities. That would allow us to implement some type of a system with those partnered agencies to be able to calculate the data of the number of rides completed. The rides might also include attending the meetings and self-care. The difficult part for us, though, is we are still at the end of the day public transportation. We don't want to draw attention to the individual that would be receiving recovery service. So for us, my drivers don't ask you if you are part of the sobriety court and such. So the tracking of that might be a little bit tricky for us to come under. We don't ask as well. So if they need to go to a specific place, we currently have a relationship with Family Medical, and Family Medical will pay for that transportation for the people to get there. Now, we did run into a little problem with that, and I had spoke with Ed, is that everybody knew that it was a free ride to Family Medical. So they were all riding to this side of town, and then they could ride back over to Walmart in the afternoon because Family Medical was covering that. So we actually, understand the structure of that and how people could potentially misuse it. We don't know whether we would want to do like more of a voucher pass. Obviously, if someone were to schedule the transportation, I know they need independence, but we have a program now that's called Job Access Reverse Commute, JARC, and it helps individuals get back and forth to work. What we're running into is we've had a flood of calls all of a sudden, everybody wanting to be part of the JARC program, and we're very full with it. But I'm going on the word of the individual that they are actually going to work. So now we've had to implement that if you are working, you have to take this paper and your supervisor has to sign it for you to remain on the JARC program. Because we always have people that are just going to try to get away with things. So for us, the biggest obstacle, I guess, at this point would be the tracking and the reporting. If it was, a voucher or something like that, strictly from, we just talked about this before we came. Okay, so it's a blue paper, or it's a blue token or whatever. Well, then everyone's gonna go, ooh, blue tokens, that's the sobriety tokens. So we want them to stay as generic as we can. Not only that, but my bus drivers, if they hand a blue token, they are not gonna ask them, are you here for treatment, obviously. So, I mean, that's the barrier that we have. We're still trying to figure out how we would track, so.
We do have software that we would be able to track through. We just wanted to make sure that we don't raise up a like red flag that says, hi, I'm seeking sobriety treatment. So with that, we would have to get creative. We do partner with agencies like Wellwise, formerly known as Region 2, of which they schedule the appointments. So one of those ideas could be that we could partner with CMH, we could partner with Family Medical, Catholic Charities, District Court, and they could schedule the transportation for the rider. And then it would just mark them in our system for tracking, but we wouldn't hand out a token or a voucher that would raise that alarm of, oh, that's a different token than we've seen before. What is that one for?
We are able to pull the number of rides that go to a certain location though. So that's something we've spoke about also. So like we can pull Family Medical rides and tell you that we did, 32 of those this month and stuff. So we are able to pull based on locations, but the problem with that is that does not tell me whether the person is working with an agency for sobriety court or if they're doing that on their own. So a little skewed on that number as well, so. And do you have any questions?
Folks, questions? Nancy?
What is the vision for the timing? So are you gonna do it 3 days a week, 6 days a week? Does it look like maybe from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock? Do you have a vision of where that's gonna be? Because it's gonna be difficult to gauge. You couldn't do it 7 days a week.
Right, right. We actually had a service that we, forgot to mention, we partnered with the hospital. And we had a service that the hospital would call us, and I had on-call drivers. That, once again, we had to pull back on when the funding was cut. So they would call us up till 11 o'clock at night. The difficult part of the 11 o'clock at night, which might be the time that someone needs help, is that my drivers come in at 6 a.m. And so it's difficult for me to find people at 11 o'clock at night that want to go somewhere and then turn around and be back up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So to answer your question, I would love to roll it out as quickly as possible, but it would be based on staffing and how I could get that covered.
Thank you.
Gary?
Do you have like scheduled rides? We go this bus takes you these places during the day, or is it all, whatever somebody calls you and said, I gotta go?
We are the best Uber service out there in the
Okay.
public right now.
Right, that's what I was,
We are not just and when we try to explain to people that we don't have you walk 3 blocks to a bus stop and pick you up, ride around, and then you get off at that bus stop and walk to your doctor's appointment. We call it door to door. I like to say curb to curb because I don't want my drivers necessarily walking up to the door. Now, there's some individuals, we've got some elderly people that we transport for dialysis and we walk them right to the door. But you could call within an hour. We love for you to give us an hour. We don't get that very often, but they'll call, they'll have a doctor's appointment or such, and we get them to where they need to go.
gotcha. So you're not, I see one of your vehicles pull up at Myers when I'm there and I'm.
We
just
had
wondering,
people call and we're just
you're
picking them up.
not, we go to Myers at, 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock or something like that, or?
We've tried to implement something similar to that. It's just difficult because a good majority of our people live at the high rise or at River View Terrace, or, we have a large population of homeless people. And so when we pick them up, we're going in all different locations. So for us to pick you up at Meyer and you be that bus, let's say somebody's going to the west side and someone else is going to the east side, and then we have somebody at the north side, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit difficult. For timing wise, okay, we pick you up at Meyer, then we do the loop all the way around. What's the timing that we get back to Meyer for the next pickup or drop off? So it has been something we've spoke about. Right now, everybody really likes that we take you right to your house. And within a short period of time. So we haven't implemented anything like that yet.
No, I think that makes sense.
Mhm.
Adding to that, though, we do medical transportation. I schedule a large majority of that. We request a 3-day notice, and those are scheduled times. So we do a lot. You could call 3 days ahead and say, I need to go to the 770 building Tuesday at 2:00. We tell you, we'll pick you up around 1, and then we do make sure that we get them there by 2. So we offer that service as well. And then as mentioned, we partner with Safe Ride Health. They are funded through people's insurance. I schedule a lot of those as well. And they actually have times that we have to abide by. We have to submit a form that says where our bus was and where we dropped them off at. So it would say, if we have to have you there at 2:25, we are not going to get paid for that ride if we have you there at 2:26. So we do schedule a lot of appointments to make sure that the times are followed, as well as you can call in to ride public transportation. So we're kind of working 2 things into one business.
So
We
you
also-
are an Uber
Yeah, we are.
organization, okay.
Yeah. It's interesting because sometimes we go to very far. I mean, I think you may be shocked. We went to Pinckney. We've taken people to Ann Arbor. We went to Brighton, all of these being medical appointments and pre-scheduled. So we like a 3-day notice. We don't always get a 3-day notice, but what that allows us to do is also staff. And when we have to close service based on roads or anything like that, we always say that we are maybe open for in-town transportation and pre-scheduled medical appointments. So those people know that we are going to pick them up. They can rest assured.
Other question, Commissioner Collins.
Couple if I may.
Sure.
The Veterans Administration, Department of Aging have transportation. Is there any collaborative effort with those people?
We do collaborate with them. The Department on Aging has very strict, I think they have to have a 2-week notice. You have to be above the certain age. So we actually have partnered with them and said, hey, we can't do this individual. Can you take this one and we'll take yours and stuff type situation. Veterans, we had a great grant last year, was called the Phoenix Mobility Wallet. And they paid for veterans transportation. We took a lady to go get her dog groomed. I mean, lots of different, unique kind of things like that. That was $1 million grant through the whole state of Michigan, and that exhausted. We try to make contact with the Veterans Fund as far as that goes to, reach out to them and say, can we partner more heavily? A lot of difficult part of that is a lot of them just want to buy the tokens. And I'm not opposed to that, but I can't go out to Cement City for a $1.50 token. And so they'll just say, well, we just want to purchase tokens. I can't go out. That doesn't even cover my fuel out to Cement City, $1.50.
But second, if I may, you talked, I think, in your application about this being a pilot program. If, assuming there was 2 years funding, how do you intend to secure funding to maintain it after the 2-year period?
Well, I would love a millage, and I know that's a bad word in everybody's. We receive no millage whatsoever. So everything that we do is based on our day fare, any of this non-emergency transportation. That's probably what's keeping our doors open right now. We don't want to make any additional cuts. We say pilot program, hopefully we come through and the state of Michigan wants to increase, the percentages. They did great during COVID. We were 60+% funded. We do have a resource that we would probably try to also, we work with it's called Michigan Transportation Connection, and they will fund 50% if they're disabled,
Senior or
senior, disabled, and so they would match funds. So a lot of times if we have somebody going to Ann Arbor, we would say, okay, can you match this individual, 50% of their ride? We did have some discretionary funds that we would turn around and say in the most dire cases that we could maybe, it was like a $2,000 grant that we had, and we'd say, okay, we'll cover their 50% if they would cover the other 50%. So
Other questions? I don't see any others. I'm kind of a student of transportation, and as you know, your story's not unique, right? Public transportation is a problem everywhere, and funding is always the hard part, and the need seems to expand to always meet whatever resources are available. So you ladies have taken on thankless tasks, and we appreciate your effort in this area. So, well, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming.
thank you
Thank
all
you
for
for
your time.
having us.
Yep. Appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. Anything else that we need to discuss? Right. Please. Well, Francine and I are working on the format for our next meeting. It's going to be general in nature, and so I want you to bring your best ideas. As I've said, almost every meeting, the more we hear, the more difficult the decisions become. Understanding that on average, we have about $500,000 or so per year. It would not be hard to burn that up with just one or two proposals, and most all of them seem so valid and worthy, and we can't do everything, but so I hope you spend some time thinking about, if you could pick 4, what were the highest priorities in your professional experience that would have the biggest impact, so that we can then have a considerable discussion on how to prioritize these kinds of things. And again, get your stuff in by the end of the month. The sooner the better, so Francine has time to put the data together for us, and we'll get back together in January. Any other thoughts? Anything at all? Well, before we adjourn, is there any public comment? Oh, there is. Please. Super. Please turn your microphone on. Just press the button so the green light's on.
How's that?
Sure, you got 3 minutes.
I only need 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'm, let's see how to say this. What am I? I'm a public information chairperson for Alcoholics Anonymous. Hence the mask. One of our traditions is that I'm supposed to maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. A little background, I have, this coming May, 19 years continued sobriety. I also sat on the Ross Committee. I've also sat on the Prevention Coalition Committee. I have also sat on the Oversight Committee for the Prevention Coalition, which helped open pathways. We have a program. It's called Bridging the Gap. We have pamphlets and everything else. I brought a couple, very few. I also have a newsletter that we print monthly that has information for all the other chair people, similar to my position, mostly treatment facilities, corrections, and public information. The sheriff can tell you that Alcoholics Anonymous has been going to the jail for quite a few years. We've been doing things in the community. And one of the things we do in Bridging the Gap is offer rides. We find people in treatment facilities or jails, and we are currently in every jail in Lenawee, Jackson, Hillsdale County. We are also in every prison in our district, which is Jackson, Lenawee, and Hillsdale. Basically, all I'm here to say, if we're available, we don't want any money. We have our own, but we are available to give rides to people that need them. If you know anybody, we also have these things that are QR cards. I don't know if anybody's seen these or not, but it has a meeting guide app on it, which if you want to get to a meeting, it'll tell you where a meeting is anywhere you're at. On the back of that card is our District 2 website, QR, and our hotline phone number. So if you need to talk to somebody, can't get to the pathway to talk to somebody, we're available. So basically all I'm saying is we're here. We're bridging the gap. We've been around for almost 90 years. Alcoholics Anonymous itself will be celebrating their 90th anniversary in this coming June. So that's all I'm here for. I just wanted to let you know we're here. We're available. We cooperate with our fellows. Have say so in the recovery courts and everything else. So if there's anything we can do, I'd like to leave these with somebody. I don't know who would get them, but you're more than welcome to take a look at them, call any of the phone numbers. We are available. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Congratulations on 19 years.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Is there anything else? Well, before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I would certainly wish you all a very blessed Christmas season and look forward to getting together with you again next year. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support. Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.